all of a sudden I felt this. I can only describe it as a feeling of imminent death. Everything in my body was telling me that I was about to die. The next thing I feel is I am suddenly falling backwards rapidly. As I'm falling backwards, I feel like I'm breaking through different earths or different levels of earth. And as I'm falling backwards, I'm falling through each floor, like boom, 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 just like all the way down. I look over to my right, and there is a literal lake of fire. And there are people that are in this lake of fire, and I could literally see the flesh melting off of their hands, their eyeballs popping from the intense heat. I'm seeing what's happening to all these people, and I realize, oh my God, I'm in hell.
Welcome to God's Voice Daily. I'm your host, Vladimir Proknivsky, and this is the channel where I share daily phone calls with people from around the world who've had real supernatural encounters with Jesus, angels, demons, and everything in between. Some of these calls go on to become full episodes on our main show called God's Voice Today, but here you will hear them raw and unfiltered, just the way they happened. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's featured call. Enjoy. How did you find the channel? How long ago?
I've actually been watching for probably about a year now, and every story that I would hear on there kind of would give me a little bit of more confidence in kind of sharing my own story, which I've only shared with. I mean, it's been almost 20 years. I've probably shared this story with like 4 people.
Wow.
You know, it's really almost no one. It's my wife, my girlfriend at the time that I had. You know, she was actually the first person that I told, and she didn't believe me, and then like 2 other friends from church.
Well, I want to be that
really
fifth
it.
person.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more. Tell me more.
Oh boy, where do I start? This man, if I were to tell you from the beginning to end, it would probably be more than 15 minutes, but I'll do my best.
We got time. Don't worry about time.
Oh, okay. So, okay, give me 1 second. Actually, just gonna set myself up.
Sure.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see. So, like I said, this was about 20 years. It was a very pronounced, very proud, ignorant, arrogant atheist. I mean, that's really the best way I can describe myself at that time. I was 23, and I grew up in a household where, you know, my mom had a portrait of Jesus, you know, in the room, in the house. But when I would look at it, it would give me the same feeling as, you know, if it was like Ra, the sun god, or Shiva, or Buddha. It didn't feel real. It just felt like it was a story that was made up, you know, time and time again. And my mom went to Catholic school, so I was mostly brought up Catholic. There was never really much talk about the love of God. It was always about the fear of God. And my mom would use that fear of God to try to raise me, you know, quote unquote, raise me right, to encourage me to make the right choices, do the right things. But living like that with a mom that never really brought up that God loves you, only that God judges you, looks down on you, looks at everything that you do, judges everything that you do, it wasn't a comfortable feeling. It just felt very oppressive to me. So that kind of started my journey away from God. So I did my communion when I was, 7, 8 years old, things like that. I did CCD in Sunday school, and those things I just did it, you know, just to appease my mother, but it never really had an impact on me, I feel. And because my mom was Catholic, when she would pray, she wouldn't pray to Jesus. She would pray to, the Mother Mary, or she would pray to a saint, because my mother's name is Lourdes, and there's a saint, Saint Lourdes, and she would always pray to this saint, Lourdes. So I was, growing up seeing her, she wasn't super religious, but when she would pray and she would pray to these other saints, it just made like no sense to me whatsoever. It just felt like, oh, heaven is filled with all these different people and you can just pick and choose who you want to pray to. It just really didn't make any sense to me. So I grew up mostly from that. I went to a private school for most of my elementary school life. And we did a morning prayer, afternoon prayer, then a prayer when we would leave school. And it just felt like we were just going through the motions, or at least I was kind of just going through the motions. Like, this is just something that people do to kind of give themselves a sense of, accomplishment. Like, okay, I'm praying up to the sky. Let's see what happens. Let's hope for the best. So that was my kind of foundation growing up. And probably around the time that I was 15, I had my first, I guess, really big life experience, which was my grandmother dying. And when my grandmother passed away, something felt different. I felt like there was something else after life. I didn't know what it was, but I just had a feeling that there was something else. So that kind of started my curiosity, but that was all that it was. It was just a curiosity. Fast forward to me being 23. I did not, like I said, did not believe in Jesus or God, did not really believe in a higher power, but I just felt like there was something, but I didn't know what that something was. And at this point in my life, I had loud truck there. I had a girlfriend at the time who was going to a youth group, who had grown up very Christian, and she never really pressured me to be Christian myself. She never pressured me to follow Jesus. She just kind of gave me her own experience and was very kind about it. And we had a group of friends there that I met through her, and they all went to the same youth group. So we all started going to this youth group ministry together, which actually took place in my old elementary school, which I thought was very coincidental. And we started going there, and I used that really to be a jerk. I would mock every single lesson that they would ever teach over there. And like I said, no one ever pressured me to think one way or the other. No one ever told me, oh, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe this. Everyone was really cool, honestly. But anytime I had the opportunity, I would kind of poke and jab at Jesus or at God or at the particular gospel lesson that they were going over at that time. And I felt great about it. I never felt guilty. I never had any sort of like second thought about it. I just didn't feel like it mattered. I felt like I could say whatever I want, do whatever I want, and it's God. God's not real. Nothing's going to happen to me. Until one night, it was a perfectly normal day throughout the day. Nothing really eventful had happened. I had been going out with this girlfriend for about 2 years or so. That relationship was already coming to an end. I could just feel it. We were already drifting apart. And, when you're a couple and one person is an atheist and one person is, very deeply believes in God and believes in Jesus, those kind of relationships, do not typically last very long. Or if they do last, they're typically very stressed. They're not comfortable relationships. So we were getting to that point where we were about to kind of split up. And I was getting into bed. I laid in bed. I closed my door just like I always do when, typically when you're going to go to bed, you just lock your door, turn off all your lights, and, you just sit there and close your eyes and go to sleep. I closed my door. I laid down in my bed, turned off all my lights, and I just closed my eyes and just trying to go to sleep. When all of a sudden I felt this, I can only describe it as a feeling of imminent death. Everything in my body was telling me that I was about to die. I had only felt that time in my life. I've never ever felt that feeling before. And I'll afterwards, since then, I've only felt it one other time, and it was directly related to someone's death. But this time was the first time I was ever feeling it. And it basically just felt like I was going to die, and it was inescapable because it was happening in my body. When you just like if you have taken, if you've ever taken a drug or alcohol or anything, it's in your body. You can't do anything about it. You're going to have this experience whether you like it or not. So I started having this feeling of dread. It was, a terrible feeling. It crept up from my toes, from my feet, all the way up my body, and it was terrifying me. So I was having this feeling that was creeping up my body. I didn't know what to make of it. I really, really start panicking because I don't know what is going on. When the feeling was creeping up my feet, as it was creeping up my leg, it felt like that part of me was dying and becoming necrotic just right there on the spot. As this feeling completely engulfs my entire body, I have no idea what to think. I have no idea what is going on. I pull the cover over my face to try to somehow, like, I don't know, just sort of some kind of fight or flight reflex to try to hide or to try to get away from this feeling that I'm feeling. Right before I pull the cover over my eyes, I look over to my door that I know I had just locked. For sure, I had just closed that door and it was sealed when I laid down. I open my eyes and I look at it, and it's opened just a little bit. And the feeling or the shock, really, of noticing that my door was open a little bit, I felt like someone was right outside that door and they were there to take me. I don't know where they were going to take me. I just felt like I was going to be taken from wherever I was, whether it was this place on earth, whether it was in my room, whether it was in my bed. I just knew I had this feeling that I was going to be taken somewhere really against my will. And I want to reiterate that this experience that I'm explaining right now, this was not a dream. Dreams happen when you are asleep. I was 100% awake when this happened. And this is not a hallucination. Hallucinations happen when you drink too much, take drugs, even take a Benadryl. I was completely sober, no drugs, no alcohol, no anything. This was just completely out of the blue. As I am noticing that the door is open, I'm getting this feeling that someone is there to take me. I pull the cover over my eyes. As I do that, the shock and the fear of feeling like someone is there to take me somewhere gets my heart beating so, so, so rapidly and so fast that I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. I'm seeing spots and I'm seeing stars on just like the peripheral of my vision all around. I'm, I mean, I'm more scared than I've ever been in my entire life. The shock of this, the next thing I feel is I am suddenly falling backwards rapidly. Like I'm on a roller coaster, and you know when a roller coaster goes up and then it goes down, you feel like inside you feel your organs kind of like jostling around in your body. You feel your heart and your lungs and your stomach. You feel everything go up and go down. That's exactly what this was. See, I was falling backwards, and I could feel everything in my body accelerating with this. As I'm falling backwards, I feel like I'm breaking through different earths or different levels of earth, like as if I was sleeping on 100-story building on the very top, on the 100th story, and as I'm falling backwards, I'm falling through each floor, like boom, 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 just like all the way down. And as I'm doing this, I just see darkness all around me, and there's just this pinhole of light that was the light was larger when I was falling, and then the further I fell, the smaller that light got. As you know, kind of like in The Ring. If you've ever seen the movie The Ring,
Hmm.
how when the girl falls down the well, all she sees above is just this little bit of light. That's what it felt like. I was just falling and falling away from this light. Once I regained my awareness, I didn't feel any impact of landing. I didn't slam hard on the floor or anything, but the next thing I realize, I'm in a cave of some kind. I see dirt and I see rocks just right below me, and I feel very, very weak. Very weak. I can't stand up. I'm kind of in this like crouched position with my shoulders hunched over. I'm basically just facing the ground. And the very first thing, the first sense that I got that I was somewhere was the sound of people screaming. And when I tell you they were screaming, I mean, it is, I've never heard a scream like this on earth, in a movie, in real life, even in, if you watch a video of some sort of disaster happening, an earthquake, a fire. I mean, there's nothing that I've ever heard that compares to these absolutely horrifying shrieks of agony and pain that I was hearing when I was here. So I'm hearing these insane screams, cries, shrieks of horror and agony. I look over to my right, and there is a literal lake of fire. And there are people that are in this lake of fire. They're just burning, and they're burning and screaming, and some of them are lifting up their hands to try to get out of the lake of fire, and I could literally see the flesh melting off of their hands. I could see the flesh melting off of their faces, their eyeballs popping from the intense, intense heat. And I also saw some people that had fully burned already. All of their flesh had already burned off, and their flesh was regenerating just to burn off and for them to go through it again. I mean, it was. I mean, it was the scariest, most terrifying thing I could ever see. And that was over to my right. Over in front of me, the area that I was in was very dark. Like, it was dark, but it was also bright at the same time because there was fire, and the fire had a luminance to it. But the light that the fire was emanating didn't travel very far. It would just travel like a couple inches, and that was it. So it's like you have fire, but there's also darkness. I look in front of me, and I notice that I'm in what seems to be a cave, but the cave walls didn't look like a normal cave. They looked like almost like they were bleeding flesh. That's like the best way I could describe it, or like troll skin, and it had a blood, it had a liquid texture to it that I could see that was reflective of the flames that were coming from the lake of fire that was over to my right. And as I'm hearing this, as I'm seeing this, I'm also introspecting into myself what I myself am feeling. And I am feeling absolute, utter despair, hopelessness, loss, guilt, resentment. I mean, every single bad feeling that a human is capable of, I was feeling in this moment. And when I say hopelessness, I mean the deepest, most intense feeling of hopelessness and despair. I felt like I could cry forever. And when I say forever, I literally felt myself crying. I could feel a tear starting to come down my eye. And then as I would yell out and let out a scream, I could feel that scream echoing just like through eons and eons of time. That is happening to me. I'm looking over to the right. I'm seeing what's happening to all these people, and I realize, oh my God, I'm in hell. How did I get here? How did this happen? And this feeling of resentment and guilt started hitting me like, I can't believe that everything is lost now. I had this beautiful life on earth, and now it's all gone. I've lost it, and there's nothing that I can do to get it back. It was a complete giving up of control. While I was on earth, I had control of my life, but now that I was in this place, I had no control. I had no authority. Every bit of free will and authority that I thought I had on earth had been completely taken away. And I was just felt with this incredibly intense sadness that I thought, oh my God, now my parents are going to come into my room the next day and they're just going to find my dead body in my bed. And they're not going to know what happened. They're not going to know about this experience. I'm never going to be able to tell them that I love them again. I'm never going to be able to experience, another breath on earth. It was this super intense feeling of hopelessness and loss. I had no idea what I had, but now it's lost forever and I can never get it back. I mean, it was just the worst feeling that I've ever felt in my life. As I'm feeling this, as I'm basically saying farewell to my life and being so sad and upset that now everything is lost, the people that were over to my right, that were in this lake of fire, who had just a second ago, they were screaming in agony in a way that I've never heard before, intensely. Now I start to hear them change. Their attitude shifts. Instead of screaming, now one by one, each one of them starts saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it gets louder and louder. And I see a white light that's emanating over from my right shoulder. And I'm too weak to actually turn over and like look in his direction or to see what they're looking at or what they're sensing. I'm so, my attention is so towards myself and what I'm feeling that it's like I don't even have the energy to think or to look at anything else but to really just sit in my feelings right now. As these people start saying, Jesus, Jesus, and I see this white light kind of coming forward, the people who were in the flames started reaching out towards him. I could see their hands swiping over, like just to try to touch his robe, and I'm just seeing this off of the very, very peripheral, the far peripheral of my right eye. I'm seeing them just try to grab at him, and they can't. Their hands come, I mean, within millimeters of touching his robe, and they can't. They can't. But they know that if they do, they would be sent to heaven, because now that they're in this place, now that they realize how everything works, now that they realize what your life on earth was, now they understand that Jesus is real. Now they understand that God is real. It's too late for them. They know that he is real, but now that they're in this place, it doesn't matter anymore. It only mattered when they were on earth living their earthly lives. And one thing about this lake of fire, in the middle of this lake of fire, I could see different pedestals, like just rock pedestals that were shooting up from the lake of fire. And there were people that were trying to jump from one pedestal to the next. Up on the top of this cave, there was a portal to heaven, and you could clearly see it. And when you look at it, it looks like you could very easily traverse these different pedestals and just jump through that portal and get to heaven. It looks like it's right there, but you can't. No matter how many times you try to jump on these pedestals, no matter how far you think you can jump, no matter how good of a climber you think you are, you cannot reach this portal. I didn't see anybody even get close to reaching this. But you can see heaven from hell. And that's what I think torments, it is the biggest torment of this situation that these people were in, is that they feel like it's so close, but yet impossibly far. So as this white light is approaching over my right shoulder, as these people in the flames were grasping to try to touch Jesus, and I'm still feeling everything that I'm feeling, this loss and this hopelessness and this torment and this deep, deep sadness and regret, he comes over to me and touches my shoulder. He crouches with me. He gets on his knees with me and puts his hands on my shoulder. The moment that he puts his hands on my shoulder, I went from feeling the worst that I have ever felt to the absolute most euphoric and happy I've ever felt. When he touched my shoulder, my heart exploded. I mean, exploded in love. The most intense, beautiful feeling of love that I can express. I felt like all of the love and the intensity of love that I had felt on earth in my regular life, all of that love, the love from a mother, the love from a brother, the love from a spouse, the love of your favorite childhood pet, all of that love fit into a nutshell. And now this love that I was feeling felt like it was as big as the universe. I mean, when I say my heart exploded in love, that's the only way that I can express it. My entire core, from my longest hair to my longest toe, was just filled with this intense, beautiful, warm feeling of ever expanding love that I've never felt that before. I've never ever felt this intensity of love before. And it felt like all of these different loves that I've mentioned, the love of a mother, the love of a brother, all of these things all combined, it felt like this is where love came from. If you have the feeling of love on earth, you're only able to feel love because Jesus created that love for you to feel. Without him, no one on earth would be able to feel love. And Jesus is responsible. And when I'm stating these facts, these aren't things that he said to me. These are just things at the moment that he touched me, I just knew them. They were just instantly uploaded into my brain or my soul at that point, and I just knew that this is how things worked in this moment. Every feeling of satisfaction, of fulfillment, and of love that we feel on earth is because of him. And it is from the smallest little things to the biggest things. When you wake up in the morning and you leave your house to go to work and you look up to the sky and you just take that first big deep breath in the morning and you feel the sun on you, you look at the sky on you, that feeling of, okay, I'm ready to take on this day, that feeling is Jesus. When you are thirsty and you drink a glass of cold water and you have that that feeling, that is Jesus. You are feeling that because Jesus has given us the ability to feel this sense of satisfaction and fulfillment from these little things. When you are freezing on a cold night and you put a blanket over yourself and you feel warm, you can only feel that because Jesus has given us that feeling to feel. Every single thing, every single feeling of satisfaction and happiness comes from him. He invented love. So he puts his arm on my shoulder. He basically is kind of hugging me. He has one hand on my right shoulder and he has a staff that I can see off of the peripheral of my left eye because he came over from the right and he hunched down over me and his face is over to my left. And I can't see his face, which is kind of freaking me out. But at the same time, I'm not worried about anything now. At 1 second right before Jesus came, I was worried. I was anxious. I was fearful of absolutely everything. Now that he was near me, I feared nothing. I felt complete elation that he was near me. So I look over to my left and his face is blurred out. I can see hair. I can see that he had a staff in his left hand. I saw that he was wearing a white robe with a purple violet sash around it, but I could not see his face. His face was just, it was just a shadow or just a blur. And as I am understanding who this is, I'm getting all of these feelings within myself of this recognition. Once your soul leaves your body and you are no longer bound by the human limitations of your brain and your understanding, your earthly understanding, your soul leaves your body and all of a sudden, all of this cosmic knowledge comes back to you. It's not that you're learning it, it's you're remembering it from before you incarnated on earth. I understood that Jesus was real. I instantly knew that this energy I was feeling was Jesus. I instantly knew that this is where I came from. This is where my soul came from. This is my Father. It was just so clear to me. It was a feeling of intense connection in a way that it just engulfed all of my senses. The feeling that he was giving me was so familiar. It was like, oh, well, yeah, this is where I came from. It was just so natural that his energy was so familiar to me. I can relate it to when I was a kid, both of my parents worked, and sometimes they would leave me home alone. I'd be like maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that. And when they would get home from work, I could tell who was at the door because of the sound of their keys. your mom has her keys and they sound a certain way. Your dad has his keys and they sound a certain way. So when they would get up to the door and they would start opening the door, I would already know who was there because of the sound of their keys. I knew who Jesus was because of the feeling that he was giving me was so, so, so familiar. And as he was near me, I started getting these concepts in my head that I did not have before. The very first one that he gave me really kind of shocked me because as an atheist who never read the Bible and who never gave the Bible any sort of look or thought, it shocked me what he was revealing to me. And what that was that he was very, very disappointed in the church, in the way that the church had progressed. He said, I had given everything in the Gospels that the church needed to spread my word, and they have failed. They have turned the church more into a business and making money rather than genuinely spreading my word and the gospel. And that shocked me because I thought, well, Jesus is the church. The church is about religion. How can you be disappointed in the church? Like, aren't they doing your bidding? Aren't they doing your work? And it was just a feeling of, no, this is disappointment. This is not what I wanted. As he said this, or as he just conveyed this message to me in my mind, this story is about to really get crazy right now. So as he shows me that he's really disappointed in the church, he casts his hand. He, like the hand with the staff in it, he kind of points it over to this area that's right in front of the lake of fire, but it's in its a little cave within a cave. And how I mentioned that everything was dark and in shadow and I could barely see any light, when he casted his hand, it just created this tunnel of light, and now I could see everything clearly. And what I saw at the end of this tunnel of light was Pope John Paul II. Now, Pope John Paul II was a face that I was very, very familiar with because I was born in '84. So growing up in the '90s and the late '90s, John Paul II was on TV like all the time. I was very, very familiar with him. And I could see that John Paul II was sitting on a throne of gold with treasures all around him. There were statues, there was gold, there was diamonds, there was a golden chest filled with golden coins, there were golden statues, and John Paul II was sitting on this throne, and he was on fire, and he was burning. And his wrists were shackled to this throne, and he was burning in agony, and he was screaming. And I felt, for 1 second, I felt sheer horror for what I was feeling. But then Jesus just touched on my shoulder, and all of the feeling went away. The scared feeling that I was feeling, the horror of what I was witnessing instantly went away. But all I was left with was the actual experience without the feeling. So I could focus on what he was trying to show me. And it just went back to, this is what the church has turned into. How can everyone look to this man and see me when the Vatican and the Catholic Church does not show me? And once this thought was conveyed to my head, I was thought, wow, that is right, because my mom, as a Catholic, she would always pray to these other saints, and she would never pray to Jesus. Wow. And Jesus told me that anybody that leads people away from Jesus, that is really, really not good. He really, really, really does not like that. When you are purposely and purposefully leading people to believe that something is greater than Jesus, or that Jesus is not great in the first place, that there's no need to come to him, he really does not like that. And when he said that, I thought, oh my God, that's what I've been doing. As an atheist, anytime someone would bring up any sort of discussion about Jesus or about God, I would mock them. I would make fun of them. I would call them stupid. I would say they were a moron. And I felt this guilt from myself, like, oh my goodness, I really messed up. I really, really messed up. And I felt like just saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I did not know what I was doing. And this feeling of fear, thinking that I was going to stay here in this place now forever because of what I've done, he instantly removed that. Again, he removes the traumatic feelings, but he lets me feel them for just a second. For just a second, he allows me to feel that, but then he removes it. It's like, okay, feel it, but that's enough. Now on to the next lesson. That's what I felt from him. And I see John Paul II. He's burning on this throne. There's treasures all around him. Then the next thing that he shows me really takes another step up on the level of, I mean, the only word I can express is craziness, because this entire experience that I'm going through is just blowing my brain. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe what I'm feeling, but I know that I am feeling it. I know it in the deepest of my core. I feel that this experience is real. This is unlike any dream I've ever had. It's unlike any experience I've ever had in my entire life. After he shows me John Paul II, then I see in front of him over to the left, I see Michael Jackson. And I know that this is Michael Jackson because he's wearing the hat, he has the diamond glove on, and he's dancing, and I could hear his voice. And he's screaming and he's crying and he is dancing. And as he is dancing, he's doing the moonwalk, he's doing all of his, classic Michael Jackson moves. There is a crowd of demons right in front of him that do not let him stop dancing. He has to keep on dancing, basically forever. And at the time that I had this experience, Michael Jackson had just died. It had just happened maybe a year or two before. So to see this really, really, really left a huge impact on me. And Jesus also told me this is not the only one. And I didn't see them, but he gave me the sense that there were other celebrities that were in hell. He showed me that Bob Marley was in hell. He showed me that Selena was in hell. And I could see right in front of me that Michael Jackson was there. And I'm really, really, really shocked by all of this. And every time that I feel a sense of discomfort, he instantly takes away the sense of discomfort, but leaves me with the experience, leaves me with the memory. And after all this has happened, I see John Paul, I see Michael Jackson. Over to the left of that, there are people, regular people, that have their wrists and their arms, they're kind of stuck in I'm going to say a crucified position where their backs are against the cave wall, their arms are spread wide open, their wrists are locked to the wall, they can't move, and there are demons that are slicing and eating their bellies. Like the demons had these claws that they would slice open the bellies, the intestines would spill out of these people. These people were screaming in agony. And then after they were basically eaten alive, their skin and their intestines, everything would regenerate, and then they would be eaten and sliced and killed again. And I really, really did not want to be in this place anymore. So as soon as I saw this and I saw everything, and I said to myself, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in right now. I started traversing back up. And as I started to traverse back up, I could look at where I was going, and I could see that towards the surface of the earth, there was light. Think of it as souls that were white and then souls that were red. And these souls were battling each other. And it left me with the notion that there is a literal battle that is going on earth right now. A battle in every single sense of the word. But when we are in our human bodies with our human brains and our human eyes, it is a battle that is imperceivable to us. We can't see it, but it is happening just below the surface. If you see a chart of all of the different levels of light that there are within the universe, within the galaxy, the type of light that the human eye can see is so incredibly limited. I mean, out of all of these spectrums of light that exist, our eyes can only see like 1%. But when you are outside of your body, you can see every single spectrum of light in every single dimension that exists. And I could see that there is a literal battle going on between angels and demons on earth right now. And they are everywhere. They are all around us. Both angels and demons are around us all the time. And if you are someone who prays and you are someone who believes in Jesus, you have a literal army of angels that is fighting for you, that you can call upon in Jesus' name whenever you need.
Wow.
And it made me feel very sad for people who do not believe in Jesus, because it became very apparent to me that those are the easiest victims for demons to take hold of. When you are an earthly being and there is a supernatural entity that is attacking you, you have no armor. You have no weapons. So I can imagine that someone's life, someone leading that life, would be tormented and have everything go wrong in their life. And they just really not know why. They just really genuinely would have no understanding as to why these things keep happening to me. Why do I have all these bad experiences? Why do I feel depressed every single day? Why do I feel anxiety every single day? And it is because you have no defense against those things. When we talk about Jesus and about God and about the Bible, we have to understand that we are talking about a supernatural entity. Jesus is a supernatural entity who lives right now. He is alive right now, right in this second, right in this moment. He is alive. And he is dwelling in another dimension. From this dimension that he is dwelling in, he can look down upon you. As he sees you from his dimension just has incredible perspective. the best way that I can kind of relate it is like if you have an ant farm. An ant farm only has two sides. You know, it's a two-dimensional planet, let's say. But us as three-dimensional beings, we can look at this ant farm, and we can see everything in this ant farm. We can see the top, we can see the bottom, we can flip it over, we can see the other side. It's very easy for us to observe everything that's going on in this ant farm. That is the same thing with Jesus when he looks upon us on the earth. It's very, very easy for him to look at me. He sees my past, he sees my present, he sees my future, and he sees the decision that I am making right now in this moment. He sees everything. He knows everything. So I always think to myself, why did he pick me? Why did he choose me to have this experience? What was so special about me? Why was I the one that he came to with this? After I came back to my body, I felt paralyzed, first of all. Like once I finally got back into my body, I felt tears pouring out of my face. I was crying like I've never cried before, but I couldn't move my body. My body was still just like, it felt like it was coming back from the dead almost. I felt like I had died and now my body was coming back, but it was still creaky and rusty and, I couldn't quite move. And then I kind of muscled my way around, feeling like I was in a pool of molasses, and I just kind of like pulled and muscled my way out of the molasses. I sat up in my bed. I was crying profusely. The first thing I do is I call my girlfriend that I had at the time. She was the only person that I thought I could talk to about this. She was the only person really that I knew that believed in Jesus, as she did. But our relationship was already rocky. Like I mentioned, it was already kind of on the way out. And then for me to go from a person who just a day or two before had gone to a youth group meeting with her and was making fun of God, was mocking Jesus, was just making a mockery of the entire experience in the church, to go from that to now telling her, oh my God, I just had this incredible experience with Jesus and this. And I told her everything. I told her from start to finish. I told her everything that had happened. The first thing she says is, why would Jesus come to you? You don't even believe in him. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know why he came to me. And she said, yeah, okay, all right. Well, we'll talk later. Completely nonchalant about it, completely dismissive of everything that I had told her. I'm sure she felt like it was just one big joke. Like I was just doing this to, further antagonize her. But I told her everything. She didn't believe me. We broke up, shortly after that. And I kept the experience to myself for easily 10 to 15 years. I didn't know who I could possibly talk to about it. I thought it was just too outlandish. It was just too crazy for anybody to believe me. I didn't want anybody to think that I was crazy. There's just so many of these feelings that make you feel insecure about experiences like this. And I certainly couldn't tell my parents. So I really didn't have anybody to go to. And having my girlfriend at that time be so dismissive and very rude, really, about it, it made me very scared to tell anybody. And like I said, I've kept it mostly secret. I had only told her, and after about 15 years, I met my current, who was my girlfriend then, but now she is my wife. She was the next person that I told because I knew that her mother very, very strongly believed in Jesus. And although my wife did not have a foundation really for true belief in Jesus, she understood it enough to where I could tell her this story, and she was just, her mouth was just open, like, oh my
Wow.
God, wow, 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 wow. And that is, there
Wow,
it is.
that's amazing. What a testimony, what a story. Would you be able to tell that story to my audience on video? Is it something you'd be open to?